Welcome, Vols and Lady Vols, to Power-T Talk. From the Cathedral of Neyland Stadium to the fanatical landscape of college sports, we're breaking down the plays, the players, and the pride of the Southland. I'm Daniel, your host, here with my comrade and co-host, Zach. Grab your orange and white. Let's run through the tea. It's time to give our all for Tennessee. This is Power-T Talk. The season now gets to go one direction or another. And you said it last pod. You said the loser of this game is going to be staring down whether things tumble or whether they kind of stay the course. And unfortunately, despite Neyland's atmosphere, despite some explosive plays, we are the team that is now staring down whether we stay the course or whether things get a little uglier.
I'm going to do something very millennial, and I'm going to use a song lyric. And there's a song called Name by Goo Goo Dolls. It's one of my favorite songs of all time, regardless of genre, time, era, doesn't matter. And on Monday mornings, I'm in podcast mode on the way to work, on my drive to work. I'm thinking of what I'm going to say with some music in the background on the drive. And I was pretty upset, pretty down overall about the team, along with the Lions loss. And then that song comes on. And I start singing it. And in the second verse, there's a lyric that says, and I quote, "Did you lose yourself somewhere up there? Did you get to be a star?" End quote. And it hit me. That is how I kind of felt watching Tennessee during the Oklahoma game. And while I was driving the car and just reminiscing what I would give to feel October 2022 again, which is not good for the mental health of myself as a fan. But for the first time under Josh Heupel, feel like the star has faded a little bit.
And we have special guests tonight. The Goo Goo Dolls are here with no. We have
all the way from Buffalo, New York.
Yes, they made it down. I used to have this debate back and forth with my dad when we would watch every game together. We've been able to watch a lot more together recently, but every game together as a kid. So I don't even remember the halftime score. Maybe I blocked it out of my memory, but whatever the score was at halftime. 16-10. And we used to go back and forth on, okay, it's 16-10. Is it 16-10 and then it's going to come back our way because we've played about as badly as we can possibly play? Or are we just lucky it's only 16-10 and we've banked the mistakes already and you don't get to come back from those mistakes? Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there on the couch and I was having the back and forth debate in my head and I said, like gut feeling, whatever, this feels like one of those games where it was sitting right there, but you don't get to do this against this team and come out on top.
You knew, despite how incredible the offense was moving the ball, that 10 points with how successful you were moving the ball was not a good sign. And it's just funny how football, more than any other play, any other sport, hockey's not like this. Basketball, baseball are not like this because there's different flows in those games. Just one play and everything swings. If David Sanders, and he's a true freshman playing against maybe the best defensive schemer in the country, not named Kirby Smart, just gets fooled. They called a perfect delayed blitz. Sanders thought he was going to drop outside, or maybe he thought that there was a run play, and that was the assignment, whatever. It was an RPO. Joey gets blindsided, and then Miles Kitselman, who might not have hit the weight room this summer, I don't know what he was doing, got dragged 25 yards by a guy with a bum hamstring who strained it and was out for the game mid-play. And the season was basically over right there, at least playoff-wise. And it's just, you just wonder if Sanders hits that block, Matthews is wide open on a slant. Joey probably hits him. It looked like it was going for 6, and it's 14-0. And I don't think Oklahoma's coming back, and it went the other way. 14-point swing. It's just no other sport provides that.
I think
football does.
Even if we, it fizzles out and we get a field goal. Now, would we have made it? Different question. But even if it fizzles out and we get a field goal, I think if we had gotten to a 10 or 14-point margin, I think it would have still gotten close. We both expected it to kind of get close no matter what. But they were not doing anything. They were not doing anything. And it's funny, I was actually watching this game with my pops, and it was me and him and the whole family, my wife and Grant. My mom was there as well, and I was pointing out to them our Mason Thomas. It was like the game had settled in, like the theatrics of the like opening stuff. We'd kind of all found our spots on the couch, and I was like, okay, they have a really good defensive front, but this is the one guy that is like the guy. Right. And I pointed it out, and then, I mean, probably less than 4 plays later, he blows it up. Basically a dominant play by a dominant player. And then you could tell on the run back that he really tore something up, and we never saw him again. But it was like he made the impact. He made his presence felt in a very, very limited number of snaps. And I mean, it's the second game in a row where we've had a swing like that. And it goes back to, and this was the internal debate I was having, it goes back to, okay, is that just a bad mistake and you get things back on the tracks and put it in the rear view? Or are you not allowed to make mistakes like that in games like this? And we've gotten the answer twice. You're not allowed to make mistakes like that in games like this.
No, and I mentioned, I think it was last week, I said I'm getting 2006, 2015 vibes where it's just one play in every loss changes, and all of a sudden you go from a good but not great season to like what could have been special. Tennessee's outgained their opponent in regulation every game this year. They have twice either they miss field goals that were crucial. If Gilbert makes a 36-yarder and Sandell misses one of those 55-yarders, different ball game, right? At least we're probably going to overtime. And it's just little things. So your kickers cost you potentially, we'll say 1.5 games. Mm-hmm. And then you think about it, it's like that interception that just kills them in the Alabama game. And then I don't know what happened on the last drive for a half. We'll get to it. But Joey just sailed one. And he was kind of probably due for a 2-pick game. That was probably fair. And you can't do it against his defense. And they struggle offensively. They're not a good offense. But they have enough talent that they can make things happen. And Arbuckle did a great job in the second half with some of the adjustments they did. Tennessee did not do a good job defensively in the second half. I thought first half they played fantastic. I really did. And it snowballed. And I mean, they didn't quit. They get a miracle interception, which I still cannot believe Oklahoma threw the ball there. I'm guessing, and I didn't listen to Venables post game, that was an RPO that was not supposed to be an RPO. They get a gift.
That was an R.
Yeah, that was an R. I don't know what happened. McTeer just loses his mind, throws the football, and they gave themselves a chance, but I could not believe what I was seeing, where they are, check with me, down 9 under 3 minutes with the ball in their half. Just little stuff like that. And we'll talk about the 4th and 1 play. I have a feeling we're going to argue about it pretty significantly, but it's just little things like that has caused the program to stagnate a little bit. It's just not cleaning up, where the elite teams don't do that. Indiana doesn't do stuff like that. And I know that's not like the power, but just to kind of throw that out there, Oregon usually doesn't do things like that. Georgia doesn't, and then Tennessee has, and that's cost them 3 games this year.
Yeah, or for whatever reason, even when they do, it's not layered on top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I don't know, I think you mentioned it already. One big thing to point out is we talked about the kicking game last episode. I mean, Sandell probably made himself some money, or at least a shot.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
4 for 4 with 2 55-yarders in Neyland.
I think he's
Essentially,
the first player in Neyland Stadium history to hit 3 50-yard field goals in a game. I think that's what Fowler said, if I'm not
genuinely
mistaken.
impressive. I mean, just
Yeah.
just nails. And so, like, yeah, tip your cap there. But I think when I look back, again, like, we knew this front was amazing. We were worried about protection. We knew Joey would get popped here and there. Obviously, it had the worst possible outcome. But the play that gets me the most from just a big sigh perspective, like, every team is good, like, more so than in decades past. Teams are good. And so big plays are going to happen. But the play that gets me the most is that interception before halftime that leads to points for Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Because that really was when, no matter what had been going on, they still could not move the ball. They could not do anything. The only way they were getting points at all is a 50-plus yard field goal or a gift. And we gave them the gift. And that was like, I think it was a combination of, I mean, not even a combination. I think it was just desperately chasing points from Joey.
They can't play complementary football.
Yeah.
They just can't. They gave 3 turnovers. They gave up 13 points. And you're like, oh, that's not terrible, but that's 3 turnovers, touchdown, which is not the defense's fault. Okay. But they gave up 2 field goals when Oklahoma didn't have great field position. And then you kind of look at the 2 picks. Oklahoma, I think, got probably 50 yards of interception return yards because guys aren't hustling their ass down there. You think about Farouk makes a potentially season-saving play to keep it 17-16 with a fantastic peanut punch. 3 and out. Immediately. No chance. With one of the, maybe the dumbest third down call of Heupel's career, which I will get to in the offensive rating. You know, they just, and like I said, they get a miracle interception. Offense is slow playing it for reasons unbeknownst to anyone. You know, they just can't, they don't get the onside kick. Defense, can you get me a 3 and out? Maybe force Sandell to kick another 57-yarder. Nope, first play, touchdown for 43. It's just, well, his second play was the touchdown, but 43-yarder that Robinson had, I mean, didn't even get touched. Literally went down himself to save a timeout or cost us a timeout. It's just little stuff like that. They just don't play complementary football. They cannot string together. And it hasn't been like this in the wins other than Syracuse. Arkansas and Mississippi State, same thing. They just cannot capitalize when one side of the ball does well. When the offense is doing well, the defense is giving up yards and points and third down conversions. When the defense is doing well, then the offense starts turning over and going 3 and out. It's just stuff like that. They've just not been in sync this year as a football team.
I think Oklahoma, I think Alabama, I think Georgia, which is how they survive all these games, even if it's not pretty, they feed off of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think a little bit of that is like painting with the 2020 hindsight brush. Like, sure. But, you know, when we're trying to trace a narrative of the season, I think that's what it comes down to, where it's like we did not have they don't capitalize.
No.
They don't. And like they're just like, when they start taking on water, they can only get one side going. They can often get the one side going when they start taking on water, but they can't get both sides going to start moving water out. And I mean, it's not gonna make against these teams. And I think I am very much, and this is like not from I get very frustrated, but I am very intentionally, hey, results are results. I still enjoy cheering on my teams, like very much so, like almost to a fault in a way. But it's still no fun. Like it still sucks to be like, okay, instead of like a fun run where we get to see everything come together, it is now like a survival mode because we just couldn't step up in the big moments. And we going from like up in that top 15 tier, you know, chips fall where they may when you're up there, to down in the like, you start to get into the very big chunks of that normal distribution. of teams where it's like, okay, we have precisely 0 good wins and 3 extremely frustrating losses, and it just becomes a very ordinary season. And those happen. I get it. I can trace the story of why, but ordinary goes to ugly with 2 more results this year.
Stagnation frustrates everyone, no
Yeah.
matter the situation. Unless you're the Dodgers and you win like the World Series in 7 instead of 5, right? Like that's literally it. Like stagnation frustrates everyone, especially in football. And what Heupel and Danny White have done with this football program is nothing short of amazing. And I don't care what ends up happening with Heupel. He deserves infinite amount of credit for what he took this program was and made it as successful as he did in year 2, winning 11 games and finishing with a top 5 team. It's incredible. However, you can't live off that forever. Phil Fulmer didn't get to live off his national title, it was 10 years, but it came to a halt, right? Johnny Majors got 7 years out of that 85 Sugar Bowl. Heupel isn't going to get 7-10 years of good grace from 2022. And yeah, we were a playoff team last year, and under the new format, we have a home game in Neyland instead of playing on Ohio State with the road. So maybe the feelings change if the playoff format they changed it a year earlier, but that's beside the point. Stagnation's going to affect the fan base in a negative way, and I think for the first time that there's always been the anti-Heupel crowd. Just I hate the coach because that's what I do. Whatever the 5%ers or whatever, but now it's like 10%. 10 to 15% that are getting frustrated. And that does become a thing. And yeah, the national media was like, they shouldn't fire Heupel. It's like, okay, hold on. We're Saturday night, 12 o'clock on our Tennessee whiskey. Can you give us a little breather? We're frustrated. But I do understand that there's coming a point where 8-4, 9-3 is not going to be good enough here. Now, like I said, there's good signs, because there has been changes. We saw it with the recruiting strategy the last year and a half. We saw it now with the offense. I think Josh is a forward enough thinker. He can make those adjustments. But now it's got to be, how can we go from a top 15 program to a top 8 program? How can we go from a program that is in the playoffs to winning playoff games? And that's going to be the next step.
It's probably the hardest leap in sports. I think even the people who have done it, it's like we almost don't remember that it was so difficult. Like even Kirby, I mean, they were humming.
I remember the stigma around him.
Yeah.
You go to 2020, most people would say Dan Mullen's a better coach than Kirby Smart.
Yeah. And so like it very much is a you don't do it until you do it kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I do think, and this goes back to something we said on the previews or very early in week 1, and it was a point I made. So like how convenient to circle back to it. But some people you just gotta let a result be a result.
Yeah.
Like and again, like I can be so as guilty of that as anybody, of like, chipping away at and like driving myself insane. But sometimes a result, it's just one team. We played a game and one team was going to lose, and it sucks. But it's okay to take a breath. I don't know. I think we're at this place with sports, and this is a much bigger conversation, probably a bye week or even off-season conversation. We're at this place with sports, with every sport, where the combination of like, we talked about it a little bit earlier this season, how much information we have and how specific it is and how much analysis there is around every single little thing. It's like simultaneously wonderful, but you can ruin everything with it. Mm-hmm. And it just gives us too much to pick at. Like these scabs are real enough. We don't need other little ones around to continue to pick at. And so I think we have to, I'm just talking generally, we have to just breathe a little bit. Now, if the rest of the season goes south, people are going to be even more in that vein.
Legitimately issues then at that point if it goes really south. Yes.
Whether they can circle the wagons is a big question now. And I'm still one where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to let a 3-week stretch bounce me one way or the other, but it has a chance to be a pretty big bummer. And That's even if we knew that we were a little bit optimistic with our season predictions, blah, blah, but you can't lose every single, we might lose this game. That's just, it can't be that.
Well, and the other part is, despite the fact that beating Florida and Vanderbilt, because you beat Florida at the Swamp for the first time in 22 years and beating Vanderbilt's best team maybe since World War II would mean something. It's also still Vanderbilt and Florida.
In their current state, yeah.
It's a little bit different if you beat them to go to the playoffs instead of beating them and now you're going to a better bowl game in Florida, or you're going to the bowl in Nashville or whatever it's called now. So, you know, if it's 9-3, we'll have the conversation. Like, are we happy? Are we good? What we got to improve on and everything? But it's just disappointing when your season ends. That's the nice part, but also the hard part about college football now. It's like when the loss at Florida happened in September, you're like, well, non-national title year. That sucks. But at the same time, you're like adjusting your expectations. You're like, okay, well, now I can just watch the games without the implications of what this, BYU, Utah, how's that going to affect the playoff hopes? But now it's like you're delaying the inevitable, like this year, where it's like, hey, if we win out, we're in a playoff game, and maybe we get one in Neyland, and look how crazy dark mode was to start the game. And imagine that in Neyland. Now it's like, oh, well, that doesn't, maybe the flaws we saw in Arkansas, Mississippi State did actually mean something.
Yeah, it's one of those where with the latter part of the schedule here, we almost have to, and this isn't like a declaration, but it's just like how you're going to sit with it. You have to decide whether these games are the tail end of a season that we lost the big outcome, or if they actually matter. Because I guess what I'm saying is you can't do the thing where if we go down the Swamp and win, and we beat Vandy, who is still a rival, and they would absolutely love nothing more than to drive that hammer in on a disappointing season more. If we beat them, then I think that we're not allowed to say, it was throwaway. That doesn't matter. We blew the important ones. If we would also be very pissed off if we lost them.
Yeah, there's a medium. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Like, you can't just be like, Vanderbilt, who cares? And then if you lose, you go, oh my God, I want to burn the ships.
It can't only be bad.
Right, exactly. There is a medium to it. Like, I'm not going to be putting up a $50 cigar beating Vanderbilt, but I will be smoking one if we cost them the playoff, right? Yes. So I'll pull out the $8 one. But or if we beat Florida at the Swamp, you guarantee,
dude. I will never not be excited about that.
I'm getting a cigar and I'm getting my whiskey, and you can't stop me. I don't care if they're 3-7 and their coach is fired. I've seen it twice in my lifetime, so you're just gonna have to get over it, ball pants. So, but you also can't be like, oh, this is inexcusable. We can't have this. Like, there's a way, and now we're kind of. Well, we will get to the offense rating, I promise, here in just a minute. But there is a way to be upset and happy about losses and wins. And I know that sounds really dumb, but I think with how the new era of college football has become, we've kind of lost the joy of victory.
Exactly.
We have kind of lost to remember that winning is fun when your team does it. I am guilty of this too. Like when Arkansas and Mississippi State games, I was not happy at the end of the game. Now, usually I'm not happy anyway during Saturdays, and then Sunday I'm good. But I'm guilty of that as well. So I think I've seen some people say they should just start Merck or McIntyre and play all the freshmen.
Season's over. It's lost
Season's
season.
over. Lost season. Who cares if it's 9-3 or 7-5? This is not pro sports.
That's not how this works, man.
It's not how it works. This is not pro sports. Rivalry games still matter. Creating memories in rivalry games still matter. You don't get a better recruit because you went 7-5 compared to 9-3. Bowl game, completely different discussion. But regular season still matters to me. It's why most players still don't opt out, even with the transfer portal and everything. And go ahead, go tell Arian Carter, who played with turf toe in both feet, like, hey man, season's over. Appreciate you gutting it out against Oklahoma. But we're going to go with the freshman. And also, we're going to play Perlotti in your spot. Just rest up. We'll see what happens. I don't think that's going to fly. So, these are still athletes and they're still highly competitive and they're not used to losing.
Yeah, it's like it's the same in sometimes. I think this happens in baseball a lot where it's like, and again, I don't think this actually happens. I think this is the fans suggesting this. I think about like the national season where it becomes like, oh, any pitcher over the age of 26 and a half doesn't need to see another inning. We need to get every young guy out there. It's like you understand that. Well, but it's like you understand that this is still happening with like professional athletes who like are doing their careers. This is not a simulation where you get to just like see how the other parts of the simulation go with this. Like, I don't know, if your instinct is to like rip away what we actually have built, even if there are problems, even if there are shortcomings, if your instinct is to rip away anything we have built, I don't think it's going to turn out better.
Well, and you're trying to build a culture with 18 to 23-year-olds.
Yes.
And sending a message of the season's over with 3 games to go causes rot.
It's a good way to do really, really badly.
Yeah. Everyone imagines the good, like, oh, George McIntyre's going to come in and light it up and for 3 games, and now we're all excited next year. Or he doesn't check to the right call or the swamp. They can't hear him, the offensive lineman, and then you got, a guy comes in on a free blitz and tears his knee. I don't want that to happen, but that can also happen if he's not ready. So it's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to say like, hey, the meaningful part or the accomplishment was not achieved, and be disappointed that, while also saying there's still meat on the bone for this season.
100%. Let's get into the nitty gritty of it. We're not going to be super long with these because like we just know that like people share our disappointment. But I want to start with the offensive rating. We might have fallen in similar spots here now that I'm looking. I had a 71 for the offensive rating. I mean, it's just run game couldn't get going, I think is my biggest one. And I get that we had some yardage otherwise. We had plenty of yardage overall. I can get into all the nitty gritty of the different levels of attack, blah, blah, blah. You just can't turn the ball over that much.
That's the big thing. You can't. I can't believe I'm going to give it a 70. With the fact they put up 456 yards. You told me they put 456 yards.
I know.
On Friday. I've been like, cool, that's at least a B on offense. I don't know if we'll win because of our defense, but like that's a B. But 3 turnovers, 13 points, 1 directly. And I cannot get over watching. And you're laughing at me because you're seeing we're doing video, even though we don't release video, and my eyes are closed. It's like living the worst nightmare. Just watching Kitzelman get dragged for 25 yards, which has nothing to do with offense.
You and I argued about this as it happened, but only because I just love Kits. Like, I just didn't want it to be true.
Like, literally just going to be on a highlight reel for years, but that's beside the point. The 3 turnovers turned the game. To put into perspective how massive the turnovers were, Tennessee averaged 7.72 yards per play. That's 90th percentile last week, yet their EPA per play was 28th percentile. That is how incredibly bad those turnovers were. Joey was cooking until he threw the pick in the red zone in the second quarter. Braylon Staley's going to make a lot of money, so I wanted to point out that. Lance Hurt's going to make a lot of money. I wanted to point out those two. I thought they were the 2 best offensive players. I thought the game management offensively was an absolute disaster. It was a cluster. Once again, running the ball and putting them behind the sticks twice before the half and making, and I can't quite say this because maybe it's not true and it worked the week before. It puts so much pressure on Joey to hit a downfield shot when you do that. And I hate that strategy. I just don't like it.
He's good at layering these throws, but when that has to be the answer, it is so hard.
Exactly. It's asking so much of him. And my thing on that was slow playing it, which is what Heupel has done to make sure they don't get the ball back. Oklahoma was not going to be aggressive with a 6-point lead and they get the ball at half. If Ross punts that to the 25, he's either running the ball first play or Venables is just going to sit on it. I guarantee you that's what's going to happen. They get a huge fumble. So they score coming out of the half after they force a punt. Great job. They get a huge fumble, 17-16 lead for Tennessee, and these dopes go 3 and out with maybe the worst third down design play of the Heupel era. You and I talked about it. That is maybe the worst self-scouting I've seen Heupel do. That third down design sweep to Joey.
This Joey run, right? Yeah.
Yeah, this is a Joey run that had no chance at any point.
No.
Didn't even have a actual elite blocker, didn't even put a running back out there to at least maybe help out a little or something. If you're going to do that, put Star or Mike or something in the backfield and just throw a different look at him.
Yeah, just do something that someone might skirt through.
Or give him leak the tight end out just in case. It was awful call. That infuriated me.
That front seven was just humming too.
Yeah, it was. You can't do that against that defense.
It was like throwing meat out there in the Lions' den. I mean,
it was like when Butch would run those short field reverses against Bama's defense. That's what it reminded me of.
It honestly, I think of it
you're not that guy, pal.
Yes, you're not that guy. And it's also if you ever watch youth basketball where there's a mismatch, one team is clearly better, clearly more athletic, and they're pressing or something, and the kids get desperate and they start to throw passes over their head. It's just it's like throwing the ball up there and saying hey, show me what you can do. Right. And they're hey, we're happy to show you how athletic we are. Yeah.
Then in the fourth quarter, they have this 3rd and 14 play. They run actually a beautiful clear out for the back, except Peyton Lewis is in the game to do it. Again, you're not that guy, pal. With I don't criticize running backs very often because I do not have the body type to be a running back, and I did not have those moments. That's one of the worst, inability to break a tackle plays from a Tennessee running back in a while. I think I can name 25 running backs in my lifetime at Tennessee that would have broken that tackle.
Give me Marlon Lane.
I mean, David Oku, I think, could have broke that tackle. Torian Poole would have been gone for 25. It's just unbelievable. But again, they just don't put in a good personnel package despite a great play call. Then, and here we go, calling a play by stats, so by offensive touches, your 12th option coming into this game. He had the 12th most catches this year, or the 12th most touches on offense. On 4th and 1, gotta have it, down 9, and they can't get set before the play, so they have to burn a timeout, down 9. And yes, he was wide open.
Open. That's the problem.
Yeah, I know. I get it. I understand it. But I'm going to refer to the great philosopher Nick Saban. In crucial moments, you need to think about players, not plays. And I do not understand why on a 4th and 1 they can't have Chris Brazzell on the field.
I know.
Or Mike Matthews.
Well, it's also the second time this year.
Look, I know he was open. Wide open. I get it.
It's money. Understand. It's money.
Could you okay, that's fine. Why is Nathan Robinson in the block?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Again, this is the phrase. The episode title is going to be you're not that guy, pal. Another guy that just had no business being there. You could have put in your offensive lineman, your 55th tight end, the fullback, maybe Carson Gentle's at least done it this year, just because they ran into each other. And yeah, freshman got to make the play, but still, that's my issue. And then Tennessee's running checks with me on the drive after a miracle INT. And to give them a chance, they lose the 2-minute warning. Of course, they score the next play right after the 2-minute warning. The run game, Daniel, was it bad? Maybe the worst of the Heupel era. Since 2021. I remember the Alabama 2021 game. I think they got 20 yards on 23 carries. But they just awful run game. They were stopped on 12 out of 31 non-sack runs. And a lot of those were Joey scrambles. So I don't think Joey got stopped on any actual scrambles based off what I can see. So it's probably worse than what those numbers actually were. Oklahoma's blitzes just literally smothered Tennessee. You could feel it. It's the worst game by the interior offensive line. The pick we talked about, Sanders, just not all his fault, but just a tough one there. The only good, they went 7-14 on 3rd and 4th down. That was good. They threw a ton of yards. Joey was cooking them the first 3 or 4 drives of the game. But just, it's a 70. The turnovers are, you got to knock down 2 grades. And then again, just the game management stuff that's seems insignificant, but just really blows it up. And again, that 4th and 1, you waste a timeout and then you don't convert it. Just it was just bad. It's unbelievable they put up that many yards, and I'm giving this load of a grade.
Yeah, it's kind of unbelievable they had a chance given the mistakes too. Like on the flip side,
you could say it the other way, yeah.
Because we tried to give up another one with the Boo Carter thing. The 2 things I go back to, one, and the run game was not getting going at all, but that Star Thomas play down the sideline where he steps out of bounds barely, there's barely that gap. I don't think that's going to make us start running downhill on this team. Definitely not. It's we needed a pop play, and then it just did not happen. That was just so demoralizing. It felt like we were going to get out of our own end and stuff like that. And that I think might have been the same drive where Joey
is.
Yes. And so that one was just so frustrating. And then, the second thing is, I don't know. It was just one of those games, and this is still on the run game. It was just one of those games where we were worried about it. We didn't want to directly predict it because we know Heupel can call a great game. But the interior of the offensive line
didn't have it
all game. Yeah.
They were.
And Sanders made that one big mistake, whatever. But Hurd and Sanders were pretty good.
They were. Everything was up the middle.
Yeah. The interior was, they were just bringing guys around, second level stunts, delayed blitzes, or just directly confronting, and we just couldn't move them. And I this is a totally unfair comparison, but I think about I was watching Bills Chiefs, and that Bills offensive line was just moving dudes, just moving Chris Jones 5 yards back every time, and it's why James Cook is just cooking, frankly. And again, not that we're supposed to be that, but we weren't moving anybody. And the combination of not moving anybody and getting stuck in your tracks a little bit, it's why it's so frustrating, because all that cost us was mistakes. We still had an offensive game plan that worked, but the mistakes bit us.
They didn't have enough counters to Oklahoma's pressures. For example, I remember, I don't know if you do because it was 2 months ago. Do you remember when we ran 2 really nice running back screens against Syracuse? That thing's been parked for months. I was I'm thinking, I think I texted you maybe second, third quarter. I'm like, man, I feel like a running back screen would work here with somebody. Nope, didn't pull it out. Didn't rely on the screen game at all, which is funny because last year it's all I bitched about was the screen game. But it's I just didn't. They didn't have enough counters, and it doesn't help. Look, when your interior of your offensive line's getting pushed, you can't really. It's a miracle they had this many yards.
Oh my God!
When you actually think about it,
it's a miracle that Joey didn't get popped more.
That is also true, and the Oklahoma can counter, be we didn't have our Mason Thomas. What happens? It could have been a lot worse if he doesn't pop his hamstring. But it just, the offense is so much better than last year. The process is, the yardage is, yes, a lot of that's quarterback, the more athletic offensive line, but it's just the consistency from the 21-22 teams is still not quite there. And I don't know if they'll ever find it this year. Maybe they do. Maybe we're not giving Oklahoma, who we just heap praises on for 45 minutes last week. We should probably give them a little more credit, but it's just, you can't have 3 turnovers against a team this good and in the SEC and think you can win.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the reason it stings is, especially that second Joey pick, it was an unforced error. I think of course our Mason Thomas goes Superman mode, but the others were lackadaisical. They were passive turnovers Whereas I almost could live with it if it was like, bump and run coverage and the corner jumps an RPO. But it's like, no, Matthews was like open a lot and we found success with it. And so it's just infuriating. Because you just want to keep heaping praise on these guys who just keep going out there and doing all the positives. You just can't have the negatives. And the negatives have shown up too much in these last two losses. Flipping to the other side of the football, the defense played a lot better than I expected. And it's not, we also had big questions about Oklahoma's offense, and they turned out to be mostly reasonable questions. But I actually did think that, so I had an 81 as my grade. And part of the reason I'm sort of middle of the road, but it didn't go exactly how I thought it would, especially if you had told me the turnovers happened the way they happened, I would have actually thought that their run game got cooking. And ultimately their run game numbers were pretty good. But I thought that there might have been like more busts and just way more helplessness feeling. Whereas our defense kind of stayed in attack mode. And had some really admirable efforts from guys like Farouk and Carter and others.
Oklahoma had 33 points, which in a vacuum, you go, well, that's not good. And then you go, okay, well, sevens had nothing to do with them. So that's 26. 6 came off turnovers, so that's 20. And then 9 came, well, not 9, but you know what I mean. And then 3 of the field goals they hit were 50 plus. So and then the last, the touchdown drive, they called an all out run blitz. It didn't work. Sure. Bad gap integrity, couldn't get off, no safety, whatever. So I honestly think this was their best game considering competition. Like I really do think that, they contained Santanga all game. The pass defense was the best it played all year. I mean, Mateer averaged 5.5 yards per attempt. They got 3 sacks, 2 turnovers, incredible forced fumble by Farouk. He's still bad 90% of the time, but boy, that 10% is fun. I thought the second half pass rush was underwhelming. I think Oklahoma made some good adjustments, kind of doing a little more spreading out, working on chipping a little bit more, and letting Mateer run. Like, I think a couple of those pass plays were specifically designed to get Mateer running.
Yeah, once we were pretty tired, they had this little rhythm of like Satanga could get open enough, and then if he wasn't, Mateer he's just daring enough to go towards wherever he needs to, and he's pretty good at it.
Right. Some of the edge injuries showed up. I thought this game that really played a factor. Josephs was banged up all game. Carter tried. He tried and just didn't have it. They still cannot get pressure consistently from the middle. Hobbs plays everywhere. Like he's noticeable, but they just don't get consistency. Thought the gap integrity on some of the run plays was lacking, not just the Mateer scrambles. I think Robinson, even before that 43-yarder, was averaging around 4.5, 4.8 yards per carry, something like that. If someone gets double teamed, it's over. Like when people run duo, there's no chance, or when they run, it's over.
Especially because a compromised Carter and then our linebackers is just like they're just eating.
Although Thielen and Spillman played really well.
They did. Spillman popped early too.
He did. I thought they both played much better, which I think part of it is just Oklahoma is not a good passing unit, so they could focus more on the run game. Downhill. But I thought they're all right. Corners were very good. Redmond continues to get better. Oklahoma had a little success picking McMurray off. Blue Carter did not play defensive snap. I think that was in direct relation to seeing the film.
You predicted
in the Kentucky game. Yeah, I did. Would not shock me if that continues to be a thing. I'm kind of waiting for the Pete Nate goes, Blue Carter's entered the transfer portal during the bye week tweet. It hadn't happened yet. So it might after this recording, who knows? But our safeties are terrible. Like I said, Farouk, 10% of the time, man.
I forgot about the turn time play.
Turn time's terrible. I just look, I don't know what happened with Jacoby Thomas.
I know.
I don't. And I'm not even saying Jacoby Thomas is Ed Reed, but I don't know what decision led to Jacoby Thomas leaving and Andre Turntine staying. We're still bad at third down. 4-10 wasn't a disaster, but even though they didn't score off at the Mateer scramble, the most predictable thing in the world, and nobody was in 20 yards of him, was awful. Mateer had 93 yards, non-sacks. That can't happen. That's bad. It's one of the two things you have to do against this offense. Like, watch Mateer scrambles, stop Santanga. That's literally, Xavier Robinson's going to have one pop. Like, that's it. Those are the three things. They don't get burned. They contained Santanga, even though he had a couple third down conversions. But they played better. I will give them that. They did play better. That first half, they were rocking. Like, the first half wasn't their fault. And, they could have put up better effort in the second half. I didn't think they played that well, but thought Arbuckle made a couple nice adjustments. And again, they gave them a chance. That interception was a miracle. And it would have been talked about for decades had something come from it, but they just couldn't complete the job. So I gave it an 83. I was like, I was happy. They played plenty well to win this game. If you take Tennessee's offense against Arkansas in the Oklahoma and put it in the Oklahoma game, Tennessee wins this game.
Yeah, if we just protect the football.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were not going to go down and get the points they needed if we just sort of protected the football. And so the offense and frustration is almost.
Their kicker hit 255 yarders. I mean, I just, it at night in November. It's in our kicker missed a 36 yarder.
Yep.
If he misses one and Gilbert hits his, we go to overtime.
There was that point in the game when we were kind of on the comeback trail, so we scored to make it 26-24, and then suddenly just right in front of us was, the missed kick by Gilbert and the massive makes by them. I mean, if we had gotten up 27-26, it would have been either my score prediction, a close win, or yours, a heartbreaking thing at the end.
Well, and I'm sure Mateer would have ended up with 150 rush yards somehow, but even still, and we haven't graded special teams. Another F. Another
brutal,
one.
Man.
And Gilbert did hit the 47-yarder. Kudos. You cannot miss a 36-yarder in college football anymore. It just, no, not anymore. 1999, sure, whatever. You can't do that anymore. Boo, terrible muff he got lucky on. Guys running away. Why is Peyton Lewis returning kicks? Can Star Thomas not return kicks? If you're not going to use him offensively, could he not do kickoffs? Another F on special teams.
It burned us again. And it's also relative to how well they did on special teams, Oklahoma. And so it's, tip of the cap. They had things cleaned up. But we're up 10-7. And if we make that field goal, it's 13-7. And suddenly they're having to play a completely different style of offense compared to
Oklahoma had 11 penalties for 110 yards.
Dang.
I think we ended up with 3 for 25. That's just, it's unbelievable. Also, I'm looking at EPA. Oklahoma for this game had a minus 2.14 EPA. 5.04 came from their special teams.
God.
Positive. That's how incredible those Sindel kicks were.
I mean, it was a beautiful sight. Neyland looked great. I forgot to say this at the top. I watched the whole thing on Skycam. And so it was the view from basically behind the quarterback's head, elevated the whole time. It was nothing but stadium noise. It was no announcers, which I prefer. And I mean, it was lovely. And right at first, I was like, oh, this is going to be like a motion sickness ride to my death. But it got a little more stable as soon as the actual plays started. And it was great, but just a frustrating game.
Are we going to have the Danny Dollars has killed Neyland talk in March? Is that going to be one of our episodes?
I think we'll wind up back there. I don't know. I saw someone commenting on that and saying it's been too rowdy and too crazy and too much of an advantage too many times recently. The crowd just got really frustrated with this game.
That's a huge part of it. I think I thought the crowd was great, and then the fumble happen.
Yep.
And then it's hard when you watch one of your soldiers get dragged 25 yards across the field to his death. It's hard to recover from that.
Well, and then honestly,
So,
with this game, sometimes like with the style that we had to play, sometimes Neyland, what can get Neyland going is running downhill a little bit,
mm-hmm.
and we just never did.
No.
Like that crowd builds up when we are popping off 8-yard runs, and we just didn't.
Well, Oklahoma stayed on schedule too. Like a big part of Neyland is when negative plays happen, Oklahoma had 88 percentile success rate. They were 50%. So they stayed on schedule a really good bit. I would also say that barring like Blue Jays World Series, there has been an issue with crowds across all sports not being loud.
Yeah.
It's just become an issue as corporations and private equity and all of that has entered into the foray. Yeah, take their claim. It's not just a Neyland thing. You talk to Alabama fans, they think it's bad. You know, Georgia fans. I mean, how many times has Kirby tried to get that fan base to be loud? Like 20 times over the last 5 years or whatever. So it's not just a Neyland thing. And again, I think that play, if that play doesn't happen,
yep,
the Sanders one, if Sanders blocks him and it's 6 or Matthews drops the ball and it just is 10, I think we're probably having a different conversation. But I think it's something that we need to keep an eye on moving forward. And again, it's not just a Neyland thing. That is a college sports, pro sports problem.
The one counterintuitive, dirty little secret about Neyland too, and I think this probably goes for all venues in college sports, a 3:30 game that ends around 7 or 7:30. So the most rowdy point is around 7 or 7:30 is actually better crowd-wise than a 7 or 7:30 game.
I agree, especially when ESPN doesn't start the game till 8 o'clock on a 7:30,
like,
and
you
also
just got to think about
the first quarter till 9:15.
Yes, like these, whether it's like kids that are excited or longtime season ticket holders that are excited, or college kids, people tailgating, you're running out of steam. When this game is build up and build up and build up and a light show and a run through the tee, and like I like all the pomp and circumstance, but as far as a crowd engaged with the game, that is going to hit more at 6 p.m. in the third quarter than it is when the first quarter's happening. You know, or almost. I think that's
a great point and 100% fair.
Yeah, we want night games, but it's actually not the best thing.
No one complained about the crowd noise against Georgia.
No, and I mean, we saw what it was last year with Milroe and Neyland too. It's just there's too much evidence to the contrary. It's just a frustrating game more so than a Neyland thing.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to hit, and this is our kind of big, broad scope NCAA thing, and then we'll have more of these coming off of the bye to see what the landscape looks like, if there's any more interesting results this weekend. I think we've talked about it from a Tennessee perspective, like kind of how it's aligned with our predictions. I wanted to go more like 30,000-foot view of nationwide. We'll keep it negative in the theme of the program. What is one thing that you thought you had nailed at the beginning of the year, or just had a big hunch about, that you either now know you are wrong about, or you think it's trending towards you being wrong about it?
I thought the ACC and the Big 12 were getting closer, and I will still hold my Big 12 take. I was definitely wrong about the ACC. It has been a bad couple weeks for them.
Funny thing is, it goes right on the theme of me. I thought that Clemson was going to be playing big boy football. Now, am I complaining about this result? No, I'm not. But I thought that defense was like one of those defenses.
Right.
And they just gave up 46 to Duke, like kind of casually.
I saw Virginia in the playoff bracket before we got on, and I did the Soulja Boy Drake meme. I was like, Virginia? Like, just absolutely shocked. They are one of the 12 right now. And I don't know. I think I saw something that was actually true, that Miami can still finish 1st or 17th in the ACC standing somehow. I think I saw that correctly on Twitter.
That's amazing.
I thought the ACC would get closer, and they're starting. They're just not there yet. Like I thought Miami was going to be a true national title contender. They have not looked good in the last couple of weeks. I'll just tell you right now, if Tony Elliott wins the ACC, congratulations. That playoff game is going to be a bloodbath, whoever they play. And I still think BYU is a good team. And I want to see, and Texas Tech lost with a backup quarterback. So I don't fully, I think they're a little bit farther ahead. But yeah, I was definitely wrong about the ACC and the Big 12 getting closer to the SEC and Big 10.
Yeah, if you would have told me at the beginning of the year that Clemson had 560 yards of offense and lost a game, I would have wondered what happened. And
I would assume they somehow got promoted to the NFL.
Honestly, it's like they were somehow able to gain yardage and just couldn't stop anybody. That's kind of where they are.
It's crazy.
What about to end it, to close out on maybe a positive note to take us into the bye? What is something that you were right about? And this can be gloating. This can be dancing on somebody's, proverbial grave. What is something you were right about at the start of the season?
To be topical, when I said that nobody has parlayed 2 regular season wins more into overall success or overall job expansion, boy, Hugh Freeze, man. I'm just curious if if that ball in 2015 doesn't go 3 different ways into, I cannot remember the receivers. Treadwell's arms. Does he even get the Auburn job? No,
God, I don't know.
He doesn't. Does he get? I mean, he probably gets Liberty because it's Liberty. That's all I'll say. But God, just it. I know the fan base was excited, and I thought it could work. Like I unlike Kelly, where I'm like, I did not have a good feeling about this. It was almost like they had to make the hire. It's just a guy that just is not. Has not adjusted to, could not do the portal era, could not do the roster management that it takes in 2025. And I have no sympathies for him. It's like we're just cleaning house on like all the bad men.
In a different way than Kelly, he's just way too me to make stuff like this work.
Yes, Josh, and I get it. The press conferences are starting to wear on me a little bit too, fans. I totally understand it. But it is very nice to have a coach I'd never have to worry about.
Lord, yeah.
Yeah, it's putting the onus or putting the spotlight on him for the program. Like Josh will always put the program first, which I greatly appreciate. So it just, in Auburn, they are starting to get like Florida. When does the cycle end? And
that's another one. Who in the world are they going to hire?
I had no clue. Like that feels like if Florida can pull a big fish and LSU just promotes Sumrall, like that maybe feels like the goalish stop. I would think.
So I hope not for his sake.
I would not take that job. Peter Burns tried to say Auburn was the best job in the SEC, and I was like, "What are you?" He's like, "Their boosters are in line." I said, Auburn's boosters have never, ever, ever, ever in the history of mankind ever be aligned. And that shows with the fact they've been on probation like 9 different times. So, like the only time they've ever been aligned is when they paid Cam Newton. I don't know about that job, but I was right about you. I just did not think that was going to work, and it didn't. And I will say Auburn ripped the Band-Aid off pretty quick. So didn't even get a full 3 years.
Yeah. I'm glad he's gone. The one victory dance I'll do, I've been wrong about plenty. I was wrong in a hilarious way about Clemson. I was right about Carson Beck.
You were eventually
It took a second. It took a second. There was a lot of, he performed well at times that made it look like a very silly prediction. But he came back around. I knew I could count on him, and he did not let me down. It's just been real ugly. And I think Miami fans had all these hopes of that he was like Cam Ward light in a different way, and blah blah blah. He's not. It's not the same thing. It's been real ugly past couple weeks, and so that's another program that we'll see if it snowballs or if they if they rally the troops in any kind of real way.
Remind me next year when I see Miami in the top 10 to just be like, hey, Mario Cristobal is still the coach. Just remind
Honestly,
me, please.
when they have the, whoever, the transfer quarterback from NC State, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. A frustrating week. I think the bye week makes sense right now. We've got some real tests in the coming weeks, and I'll circle back to it. Everybody can sit with it how they're going to sit with it. You got to decide if you care about these or not. Are you writing these off or not? And again, just the way I like to approach these things, I'm going to be sitting there cheering for them, and it'll be heartbreaking for me if we lose in the swamp, just like it always is.
Next week, we play New Mexico State. That will
Big.
be a win.
Yes.
Should be pretty easy. Would not hate to see some guys get some rest and some young guys get some snaps. I think we're going to be less Tennessee-centric next week, I think is how we're going to do it, and do a little bit more around the SEC. We got to actually go in depth on some of these coaching hires. Maybe just do like hey, how were our grades average like we did last bye week?
Mm-hmm.
So we are doing a basketball preview that will release right after this episode. So and we will talk about Josh Ender next week as well. We have not. There's been multiple reasons for that, but we will get there.
Yeah. So we got more sports to tap into, dip our toe into, and more sports cranking up. So we appreciate you guys listening. I hope this was some combination of therapeutic and enjoyable. Still love the side of Neyland. It was still awesome. And
it was beautiful.
I hope we get it rocking again before rivalry week comes to town, and we all get to enjoy seeing this team rally the troops. That's what I'm hoping for.
Please subscribe. Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to Power-T Talk. We appreciate you guys. Go Vols.